Let's start by looking at our plate boundary map here. A map similar to this will show up on the test on Thursday, so I want you to be able to understand what's on this. First of all, there's three different types of boundaries, and we've talked about the three different types of boundaries already. We have convergent boundaries, divergent, and strike slip boundaries, or transform boundaries, they can also be called. On our map here, this is our convergent boundaries here, and on the map, the convergent boundaries are the areas that have these little teeth-like marks on them. Those are our convergent boundaries. We know that convergent boundaries move together. So let's look at our map here and let's find some different areas where we might have some convergent boundaries going on. I have a little bit right up here, right by Alaska. I come down here and all this right in here by the Caribbean, along the coast of South America, those are all convergent boundaries. Over here by my Pacific plate right here, these are all convergent boundaries, aren't they? Right through here. Also, right up here by where I have my Himalayas, I have convergent boundaries. So I have convergent boundaries throughout my map here in different areas. The next type of boundaries found on this map are divergent boundaries. And we know that divergent boundaries move apart. All right? And on our map here, the divergent boundaries key is like this, with two arrows that are moving apart from each other. So let's take a look at our map up here, and we'll go through some of the same plates again and see where we can find some divergent boundaries. I have a large divergent boundary right here, goes all the way along the mid-Atlantic. We call that the mid-Atlantic ridge. And if you notice, these are all divergent boundaries coming out here. And so we have a lot of seafloor spreading going on in the middle of the Atlantic right there. I come over here, and between these plates right here, the Australian plate and the Antarctic plate, I've got some divergent boundaries going on there. Let's come back over here, and I have some divergent boundaries going right on in here. The arrows going out in opposite directions. Over here, those are convergent, so those don't count. So I think we've got most of those mapped out on our map here where they're going in opposite directions. The third type of boundary that we can find on this map is called the strike slip, which is also called the transform boundary or the strike slip boundary. And they have kind of an odd look to them. They kind of go like this. And if you notice when we go to find these on here, that they are kind of mixed amongst other boundaries, all right? And so these are areas that it would be where these guys slide across each other. And they slide across each other and they can create fault lines and they can create earthquakes when they do that. So you can go through this map here and you can find different ones of these in different places. And what's interesting is these are places where we know that there are usually earthquakes because of those fault lines. Now we can also have earthquakes in other areas, such as here in the Himalayas, because of instability from the Himalaya mountains, which are still kind of young mountains being formed. And so you can get some instability there, and it can still cause a lot of earthquakes. You can come over into this area here, and we have a lot of those transform boundaries that show up in different areas along here, which makes sense because we have a lot of earthquakes in this area here. So those are the different types of boundaries that we have here. Now, if you look at this map here, if you look between the North American plate and the Euro-Asia plate, what do we have going on? Well, first of all, let's find both of those plates. This right here is the North American plate, and remember, our Earth is round, so this wraps around. So your North American plate wraps all the way around here over to this area too. But don't forget that below here is our Pacific plate. So the North American Euro plate match up right here, and they match up all along here. So if I asked you what type of boundary did I find at these plates, I would look over here. North American and Eurasia plates look together, and North American and Eurasia plate right in here. I don't really have any boundary activity going on over in this area, so I would look in this area right here. I have arrows going in opposite direction. I colored it green, so I know that those are divergent plates, plates that move apart from each other. Now let's take another look, and let's look at our Nazca plate and our South American plate. Okay, so let's look at our Nazca plate and our South America plate and see what we have going there. So let's pull this back down here. This right here is our Nazca plate, and this is our South American plate. So look here, I colored this in our purple, and that matches up with our convergent boundaries. But what else do you notice about these convergent boundaries here? You're right, this is an ocean plate on this side, and this is a continental or land plate on this side. So when I get that, I get a nice subduction zone there. So here I have an ocean plate, and here I have a land or a continental plate. So I am going to get a convergent plate, convergent area, that I get a subduction zone in. And in that subduction zone, I'm going to get not only mountains, but I'm going to get volcanoes in this area. And so if I look back up here, this is where we have our Andes Mountains. And in this area, not only am I going to have a large mountain range on the western border of South America, but I'm going to have volcanoes that go along with that. Unlike my mountain range over here, where I have my Himalayas, which is from a land convergent plate. And there I'm going to have my mountains, no volcanoes. So that is definitely the difference on how my Himalaya mountains are formed and my Andes mountains over here. So that kind of wraps up what's on our map here, and a map that will be similar to the test that you're going to have on plate tectonics. So I would look this over a couple of times, review the different information that we have here. Please make sure that you know what happens to convergent plates, divergent plates, and transform plates, that they move together, move apart, and slide across each other, and what are the things that they actually produce. I hope this helps you study. You can watch it as many times as you need to.